Green Bay getting spanked by the Jets, and then Tampa losing a game in Pittsburgh that one would think they should have easily won. Now, obviously, it's easy to say that from your couch or from this desk. Yeah. But my question for you about that Tampa loss in Pittsburgh involves Brady, and you're a former teammate of his. And the one thing that you could never question about Tom Brady, one of the many, there's many things, is him being a beloved teammate. And watching him bark at his offensive line yesterday, Chris, I couldn't help but think, is there at all in your thought process anybody on that team, any of those offensive linemen that would look back at him and say, you went to Bob Kraft's wedding, you weren't at the walkthrough, and you're going to come at me? I mean, is that possible? That could creep into any thoughts of any of his teammates?
I'm sure it could creep into somebody's thoughts because people have, like, really weak thoughts when they're not playing well.
Right.
But, like, I'm not caping for Brady. Like, I probably wouldn't have gone there, like, but I'm not Tom Brady. There's different rules for different people on a Friday night. You know, like, he's the GOAT, and, like, if I'm Tom or if I'm defending Tom, I'd probably say, well, like, good luck, running out there with a different quarterback under center. I mean, like, this is who you got. He's the GOAT. There's a lot of issues with this team, and Tom Brady's not the issue, okay? Like, I think if you look at Tampa, they got whooped up front inside yesterday. They got whooped when they got in the red zone. Cam Hayward was a beast. Ogunjobi was a beast. They were dominated in certain short yardage situations, and they don't have people to throw the ball to, man. Like, and I said this before the season, there's a thin line between having an embarrassment of riches on paper for the Bucs. You know, they're trying to roll out. They got Julio Jones. They have Mike Evans. They have, Gage. They have some tight ends. Like they brought in Kyle Rudolph. So on paper, like there's activity. Like, don't confuse activity with progress, because in free agency what they did is they added some pieces that, like, Julio hasn't been healthy. You could have seen that coming, right? Gage is not the guy you want to be throwing to 2 out of 3 times when you got to have it in the red zone, right? You miss Gronk. The interior offensive line was not supposed to be this banged up. This is a roster that if it were at full strength, they'd be better off, but I don't know if they have the horses to keep up this year. I just don't, and their defense is going to keep them in it, and Tom's going to keep them in it. I think they'll look back at this game, and it'll be a blip on the radar, and they'll be in the playoffs, but they just don't have that top gear that they've had in the past. And you can relate it to Tom not being at camp. You can relate it to Tom going to Robert Kraft's surprise wedding, which I think is a cool move. Like, hey, come to my party, surprise I'm getting married. Don't make a big deal about it. But I think the problem is with the way this roster is constructed this year. The standard that they're trying to meet, it's going to be hard to meet it with the way this roster is constructed. And I got to tip my cap to Mitch Trubisky yesterday, because he comes in the game, Pickett gets drilled, Trubisky 3rd and 15 converts, gives the team a lot of confidence there right off the bat. He converted like a 3rd and 13. He had a 3rd and 10 plus with 3 minutes to go to Claypool. He had, a 3rd and 11 that he picked up basically with his wheels late in that game to ice it. Mitch Trubisky, for a guy who's kind of been, his approval rating hasn't always been real high, and people wanted Pickett. It had to feel good for him to come in and secure that win.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you about Brady, Chris, because I had that notion that I posited to you moments ago placed into my Twitter timeline by multiple people yesterday. And that's the one thing that would genuinely concern me, is if suddenly Tampa, anybody on that team looks at Tom as they're starting to lose, and there's that winning deodorant is not being sprayed enough. And Atlanta's now got the same record as them, even though they beat Atlanta just last week. I'm wondering if any of those doubts could possibly creep into that locker room, Chris.
Sure. I mean, like, yeah, in some corner of the locker room, maybe there's somebody that's like, and maybe it's more. Maybe I'm out of touch on this thing, but I used to think like this, like, does Tom Brady give me a better chance to win than if he wasn't here?
Right.
Tom Brady gives me a better chance to win than if he wasn't here. Tom Brady could be any number of places right now. He could be on The Masked Singer. He could be in Santorini, Greece. He could be, he could be he could be hosting, he could be replacing Blake Shelton on that show where they listen to people sing. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't watch TV, Rich.
It's The Voice. It's The Voice, Chris. It's called The Voice.
Yeah,
it's okay. Yeah.
But, like, The Voice. He could be doing anything, bro. He could be in movies. and he's deciding to play football. Now, he missed a bit of camp. His personal life is his personal life. Obviously, there was a lot going on there, more than we knew. But this is a Friday night thing. Your owner gets married, and I bet you he knew he was getting married. I bet you if anybody knew that Robert Kraft was getting married on a Friday night, an hour flight away, or, like whatever it was in a PJ, I don't think this is the end of the world. I think what sucks for the Bucs is they're not very good offensively. And for Tom Brady, in the red zone, they don't know who to throw the ball to. So it's that simple for me. I mean, like, if people start coming out on that team and saying, hey, we don't like our quarterback, I say, okay, well, petition for Blaine Gabbert then. Because, like, once they lock the doors in an NFL season, like, the gates are closed. Like, you got who you got. And you got to be pretty glad you got this guy. I mean, the throws he made yesterday, they were up and down, but one of the throws he made was incredible. That ball to that tight end, he put it on Spillane's left ear in the middle of the field. It was one of the most incredible throws I saw all weekend. Ironically, the Rodgers throw to Lazard was amazing.
Yes.
And these are two guys who really struggled like with consistency offensively, and they're still making these top-end throws, man. So I think for those two guys, it's about what's going on with the offense. It's not them, and I'm not caping for these guys. It's the offense.